Today I'd like to talk about something that was brought to my attention in the comment section of the channel, and that's small property enter and exit routes. Actually, you can apply it to small property, you can apply it to any property, same principles and the ideas work. But small property, particularly I'm talking about small property that I own, that I've been hunting for a long time, that I've talked about before. The enter and exit routes, two categories: in season and off season entering exit routes, and how I go about doing that might give you a better idea of what you might want to do with your property. Off season, I consider that January, February, and March. That's the off season in my opinion, what I consider the off season. You do things a little bit differently in the off season. I don't worry so much about going in, and I don't worry about spooking deer out, because there's a long time for the deer to recover. There's a long time for the property to rest and the deer to feel comfortable on that property. I don't do a lot of what I would call heavy traffic into the area. I sort of mimic what I do during hunting season, but I still go to some of the interior parts of the property. In January, February, and March is when I'm usually doing some timber harvests, or I might do some hinge cuts, or I might go in and do some maintenance on some bedding areas, because my property got really thick. It got to the point where I thought it was too thick for deer, because deer do like to see what's coming in their surroundings when they're bedded. I had to go in and clear some areas out. And because it's a little difficult for some bucks to get into certain areas, you've got antlers and things like that, I created a maze and pocket system within my bedding area on my property, and I did that kind of thing during January, February, and March. So that's my off season. I don't bother it too much, but I still go in and I do those types of activities: timber harvest, hinge cuts, bedding maintenance. Okay, and April and May is another transition period. I would call that pre-season. I start to be a little more cautious, because April and May we're talking about fawns being born, and in certain areas, like this year I found a fawn that was in my winter rod that I didn't mow down, and it grew to probably 5, 6, not 6 foot maybe, but at least 5.5 foot tall, and there was a fawn laying in there. That's good cover for fawns. Obviously, if you know a little bit about deer, you'll understand that the fawns are bedding in one area and the mothers somewhere off in another bedding area, so not to attract predation, and with her strong scent, because fawns, they're motionless, they're not moving, and their scent is very minimal. And so I came upon, I was mowing the winter rye. Actually, I was hand cutting it, and I took a step, I saw something move, and there was a fawn right at my feet, and it scooted deeper into that winter rye, and I left it. I went back several days later, and I did eventually cut it once I was sure that there wasn't a fawn there. It was a close call. I was swinging an old sickle, and I stopped immediately as soon as I saw that movement, because I suspected there might have been a fawn in there. But that's what I'm doing in April and May. I'm not really going into those bedding areas anymore. I'm sort of becoming a little more cautious because of the fawn bedding and things of that nature. June, July, and August, I'm still doing a little bit of maintenance, but I'm sticking closer to the paths that I would travel during the off or the in season. At that time, I'm still prepping, probably spraying certain areas to keep clear for food plots if I'm doing no-till. Also, if I am tilling, I'll be going in there probably in July, end of July or early August. I just finished up planting a week ago, or not even a week ago. What's today, the 6th? So several days ago, I finished up planting my fall plots, and they actually started. We had some good rain here a few days ago, and they're germinating, and it's looking good right now. So that's what I'm doing June, July, and August. Okay, sort of a long pre-season, I would call it. I don't like to bother April through August. I don't like to be too impactful on the property, but you still have to do stuff. Okay. Now, September, October, November, December, I only go into the property when I'm hunting, and I follow a particular route. Okay? you've got the big key here during the in-season. You've got to have a designated entrance route that minimizes impact on deer in that region. You've got to give the deer as much land as possible in order to keep low pressure, in order to make those deer feel comfortable, in order to keep as many deer as possible, particularly bucks, on your property. You've got to limit impact as much as possible. You've got to have a designated entrance route to your deer stands. Now, as an example, I drew up a map of my property. It's a little over 12 acres. It's sort of rectangular in shape, not quite a perfect rectangle. And I want to show how I enter. Now, keep this in mind. I cannot enter from the outside of the property because it's posted. My neighbor's property I don't have access to. So I have to utilize my property only when I'm entering my stands. So let me step forward here, and this is my little hand-drawn map of my property. Okay, if you look at the key, I'm not so sure if you can see on the camera too clear, but the little dots are my stands, the X's are marked scrapes by my stands, and then the green, I labeled this food plot trail, see the green, and there's a gap right here. I don't have that planted because it's too shaded. It's a little rough. I might get to that next year, but then it continues on, food plot trail in the green, wraps around here, it gets a little bit bigger down through here, through the center of the property, food plot right here. Okay, so it makes, if you sort of trace it, it's a backward C. I want to keep those deer on the property as much as possible, following the trail through the property, and my stands are in locations where I can get a good chance at those deer moving along that designated path. Okay, that pattern of use that was created. Now, how do I enter? The red is the entrance routes. I have one designated entrance route to go through to the entire back of the property. And this is the only route I ever take. And I have to take this route because I can't access it from outside. Typically, if you can access the perimeter of your property without having any trouble with the neighbors, that's what you want to do. Keep the interior to the deer. Don't ever go into the interior. Okay? For instance, you'd go around like this, go into the stand, or what I used to do when I had access to this property to the west, I'd come in from the road here, and I'd go around and come in right here, and I wouldn't bother anything in here. But now, I had to change it up, and this is what I did. I keep to the perimeter as much as possible, and here's a valley system right here. A creek runs through here, and you're screened from this top area. The hill comes down, and the hill's above you, and nothing up here can see you. And then we've got a bunch of brush through here, and this drops down, and I'm coming between the hillside and the brush here, and I'm moving through, cutting across. I'm going straight to the other property line, and I follow the property line the whole way around into this stand. And I follow the property line, and I cut 90 degrees to this stand. And to this stand, obviously it's here, I'd stop here, and then this stand, I would come around here. This is my barn, okay? And I'd come around and I'd go into that stand. Okay, so designated route. All right, if you can access the borders and the neighbors don't mind, or if you have a bigger property and you can go around designated areas for bedding, that's what you want to do. You want to keep as much space, the largest percentage of space for the deer as possible, so they're not pressured, so they feel comfortable, and they'll move naturally on your land. And that's for your own private property. Okay. Now for public land, I keep it simple. Take the long walk. I was just scouting yesterday. I haven't gotten to this place in Spring Gobbler. Got a lot of different places, and some things take time. I try to stay out of the woods at least 4 weeks before I'm going to hunt an area, so it calms down. It's still early August, so I think I'm good. But I scouted a place, brand new place. I hung a camera in there yesterday, and the hill was so steep, I can't believe anybody really, unless they're hardcore and serious, would want to climb the hill up to it. And either side, it's a mountaintop, it's a flat, and there's a lot of edge. It was clear cut on top, and there are a lot of oaks that are surrounding that clear cut. I picked a spot on the map based on that cover and what the terrain looked like and the distance away from access. I went up there yesterday, and what did I find? A lot of deer sign and a lot of other wild game sign. It looks like it's going to be a good spot. I hung a camera, so time will tell. I'll probably go back up there in a month or so and see what the camera reveals to me. But for the public land, take the long walk. That means we're talking an hour walk, 1.5, 2 mile walk. The walk yesterday was 1.83 miles. And it took me approximately 45 minutes. That was to get back. I was suspected, because I have to go up the hill to get there, it's going to probably take me another half an hour to get there. So I would say hour and 15-minute walk in for me for that spot. Hard access. I told you about that steep hill. A lot of people wanted to avoid it. Older folks aren't going to go up there. Young guys might. But how motivated are you? How serious are you? That all depends on what you do. And typically, most guys, the large percentage of guys, aren't going to take the long walk, and they aren't going to use the hard access. Okay? But for the serious hunter, the opportunities are abundant. And you know, if you have your private property, that's great. If you don't, public property can produce large bucks. I've seen large bucks on private property. I know people who have harvested large bucks on, public property. Public property can be a great place to hunt. You just have to do your scouting. You have to get away from pressure, and you got to look for the food sources. You've got to look for the cover. And if it's away from pressure, you do the long walk, you get the hard access, you can have a lot of success on public. But if you have your private, you know, you can use designated routes and you'll have a lot of success on there. So good luck. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Share it with people, like it. I appreciate it. Getting some good comments. Seems like a lot of people are interested in what I have to say, so I'd like to keep putting more information out there. I appreciate everyone that's watching. Thanks a lot, and good hunting this year.